Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we're doing another news and rumor video to discuss. In today's video, we're looking at some signings from our past couple of days, some injury updates, some waiver updates, and we do have a couple of trade rumors to look at, talking about the Pennsylvania teams, the Devils, and the Rangers, amongst others. We'll get to all of that coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Now before we begin this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe below. Thank you for all of your support. It really does help the channel, and we're on the road to 500 subscribers, so if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment down in the comment section below. Would love to hear your thoughts on all that was discussed here today. So in today's video, we've got some more signings to talk about to start off this video, as we usually do with the news and rumor videos. So we got 12 signings to talk about here, all of them ELCs from over the past week. So we're going to look at all of those signings. So first, in Calgary, we saw them sign a second-round pick back in the 2024 draft, 62nd overall right-wing prospect Jacob Battaglia, to a 3-year ELC with an AAV of $931,000. Battaglia looks like a really good prospect. I think eventually might be able to be like a third or second line winger there for the Flames, so interesting note there. But they have signed Battaglia to a 3-year ELC. Then we saw the Hawks sign two top-end prospects to 3-year ELCs. The first one was Oliver Moore, who was I think 19th overall, not last year's draft, but the year prior's. He's a center prospect, 19th overall back in 2023. Signed a 3-year ELC with an AAV of $941,000. Now Moore has been able to go straight into the NHL. He's gotten a couple of NHL game action, having 2 assists in 5 games after he put up 12 goals and 33 points in 38 NCAA games. This year, Moore is going to be eventually a very fantastic second or third line center there for the Chicago Blackhawks. So interesting to note there, but they did sign one of their former first-round picks, and then they signed another former first-round pick, and that was the 25th pick in the 2022 draft. Right shot defenseman Sam Rinzel. He gets a 3-year ELC, same thing, AAV of $941,000. He has also played in the Blackhawks' last 5 games, putting up an assist after he had 10 goals and 32 points in 40 NCAA games. So Rinzel and Moore are going to be very fantastic future studs for the Blackhawks. So good to see both those guys were able to get signed by Chicago. Then we signed Nashville Predators, also signed a former very high draft pick, and that was 2023 15th overall pick Matthew Wood. Wood gets a 3-year ELC with an AAV of $950,000. He's a left winger. He already got into 2 games of NHL action, putting up no points after he had 17 goals and 39 points in 39 games over in the NCAA, so he was a point per game this year. Wood looks like a very fantastic future top 6 winger there for the Predators, so that's another very intriguing sign there that happened. Then we saw Tampa Bay Lightning sign 2 players to ELCs. First, they acquired the rights of and then signed Carolina Hurricanes 6th round pick in the 2020 draft, 159th overall, Lucas Mercury, to a 2-year ELC with an AAV of $896,000. Mercury this past year, when playing over in the NCAA, had 10 goals and 31 points, a breakout season for him in 40 games. I think eventually Mercury could wind up being a decent center prospect there for Tampa. Maybe it's like a 3rd or 4th line guy. So interesting note there, but the Bolts did sign him. And then the Bolts also signed center prospect, who was a 6th round pick of Tampa's 192nd overall back in the 2022 draft, Connor Kurth, to a 2-year ELC with an AAV of $870,000. That's a really intriguing sign there from Tampa. Kurth, just like Mercury, had also been spending time over the NCAA, having 18 goals and 39 points in 40 games. Really good breakout season for him. So a couple of late round picks signed ELCs in the Tampa Bay Lightning organization. Then we saw the Washington Capitals also sign a prospect, and that was 7th round pick, 213th overall back in the 2022 draft, David Gucciardi, who was a left shot defenseman, to a 2-year ELC with an AAV of $855,000. Now Gucciardi doesn't have any NHL action so far this year, but does have 6 goals and 16 points in 37 NCAA games, which blew his career high out of the water. So a really good season over the NCAA, and a former 7th round pick gets signed by the Washington Capitals. Then we saw Columbus Blue Jackets sign 4th round pick from the 2021 draft, under 1st overall, left shot defenseman Guillaume Richard, to a 2-year ELC with an AAV of $868,000. Richard looks like a very fantastic defenseman prospect there for the Jackets. Had 2 goals and 14 points in 37 NCAA games. Also has 2 points, including his first pro-level goal in 3 AHL games. So Richard looks like a very fantastic D prospect. Eventually might be able to be like a third-pair guy for Columbus. So interesting note there, but that's an intriguing sign there by Columbus. Then we saw the Colorado Avalanche sign Cale Makar's brother, as they have signed Taylor Makar, who's a left winger. He was taken the 7th round, 220th overall back in the 2021 draft, to a 1-year ELC with the AAV of $925,000. Now Makar has already gone to 1 game at the AHL level after he had 18 goals and 30 points in 38 games over in the NCAA. So looked like a pretty good prospect there. It is Cale Makar's brother, so it's very good to see that they also drafted and have now signed his brother. So interesting note there. And I think Taylor Makar might eventually be able to be like a solid bottom 6 forward there for Colorado. Then we saw New York Rangers sign one of their former first round picks, and that was 23rd overall back in the 2023 draft, right wing prospect Gabe Perreault gets a 3-year ELC with an AAV of $941,000. Now Perreault has already gone to 3 NHL games after signing this deal, having no points after he had 16 goals and a 48-point season in 37 NCAA games, so Perreault looked pretty good. He looks like he's going to be a really solid stud top 6 winger there for the Rangers in the long run, so that's another intriguing sign there as the Rangers sign Perreault. And then we saw the Dallas Stars sign 1 player to an ELC, and that is center prospect Harrison Scott. Scott, who's undrafted, gets a 1-year ELC with an AAV of $975,000. Scott this year had 18 goals and 35 points in 38 NCAA games, so another undrafted player like we talked about in the past. Lots of NCAA players who are undrafted getting signed, and Scott will be one of them. And I think eventually could be a decent call-up option there for Dallas. So some interesting signs from our past couple of days, 12 in total. Some really elite level prospects got signed, including Wood in Nashville, Perreault in New York R, and Moore and Rinzel in Chicago, plus some other lower level guys, including a guy like Taylor Makar. So interesting note there, but those are some interesting signs from our past couple of days. Next, going over to a couple of injury updates. So we got a couple of injury updates to talk about from our past couple of days. First, Josh Norris, who has missed 10 games with a mid-body injury, and Jordan Greenway, who has missed a few weeks with a lower body injury after missing a whole bunch of time before that. Both could return to game action before the end of the season. So we know that Norris has been in and out of the lineup. Same thing with Greenway this year due to injuries. So to see him finish out the season healthy would be a really big boost there for Buffalo. So interesting note there. But it does seem like Norris and Greenway can both play before the end of the season. In Toronto, Jake McCabe, who left Wednesday's game with an undisclosed injury, also missed Saturday's game and is day-to-day, so it's a bad blow there for the Leafs blue line, as McCabe has been fitting really well as like a solid top 4 defenseman since coming over. New Jersey's Cody Glass returned to game action on Saturday after he missed a week and a half with a lower body injury. So Glass has been fitting in quite well since being acquired at the trade deadline from Pittsburgh. So interesting note there, and I think that could be a really good boost there for the Devils' middle 6. Colorado's Gabriel Landeskog has started skating and is hoping to return at some point, maybe in the playoffs. So that could be a really big boost there for the Avalanche to get their captain back after Landeskog hasn't played the past couple of years due to an injury. So hopefully Landeskog is able to play, and he will wind up playing. Minnesota's Rinzel Kaprizov, who has missed over 2 months with a lower body injury, was hoping to return on Wednesday, so that could be a really big boost there for the Wild to get their star level player back into the lineup. Jacob Middleton, who left Friday's game with an upper body injury, is out and is out day to day, so that's a bad blow there. Middleton missed a whole bunch of time earlier this year due to injuries, so hopefully he won't be out for an over long period of time. Colin Perreault has resumed skating and is working his way back after missing over a month now with a knee injury, and hoping to return either before the regular season ends or at some point in the playoffs if the Blues, who do seem really well to do it, wind up making the playoffs. So interesting note there, but Perreault could be back in the very near future. Edmonton's Trent Frederic, who had been out for over a month with a lower body injury, was activated off of injury reserve, got back into game action on Saturday, suffered another injury on Saturday, and missed Monday's game due to it. So a really eventful weekend there for Frederic, but he's back out due to injuries. Florida's Matthew Tkachuk is still a ways away from returning from his injuries, so that's a lot of people to think he might not be ready for the start of the playoffs. Dmitry Kolyakov was missed a few weeks, could return this week from his upper body injury. Same thing with Alex Barkov and Nico Sturm, who both could return early this week from their respective injuries. So interesting out there, but it does sound like Barkov, Sturm, and Kolyakov could all return at various points this week, while Matthew Tkachuk might miss the start of the playoffs for Panthers. So that's a really bad blow there for for Florida. Washington's Alexei Protas left Friday's game with lower body injury and is out week to week with only a week and a half left in the NHL's regular season. That is bad blow because it could wind up meaning that Protas missed some playoff games for Washington, which will be a really bad blow there for the Caps. Dallas's Jamie Benn, who had missed 2 games with a minor injury, returned to game action on Saturday, so it's a big boost there for the Stars to get some more forward depth back. Los Angeles' Alex Turcotte, who missed 6 straight games with an upper body injury, has started to practice in a non-contact jersey and may return in the very near future, so that could really definitely help out the Kings forward group. While Tanner Jeannot, who's been out 6 games with an undisclosed injury, is now considered week to week, so it's a bad blow there for the Kings. Jeannot's been a really solid bomb 6 forward, so to see him be out for a week to week period of time, just like Protas, he may miss playoff games, so that's not overly great news there for Los Angeles. Winnipeg's Nikolai Ehlers missed his 2nd straight game on Monday with a foot injury in his day-to-day, so it's a bad blow there for the Jets to lose a solid top 6 forward. Colin Miller missed Monday's game due to an illness and his day-to-day. Shouldn't be out for an overly long period of time, but still losing defensive depth is not overly great. Neil Pionk, been out since March 14th with a lower body injury, has started to practice, but is still considered out week to week, so it's a bad blow there for the Jets. And Gabriel Velarde, who's been out since March 23rd with an upper body injury, has returned to practice, but is still out. So hopefully Velarde will be able to return in the not too distant future. Same thing with Miller. And hopefully Ehlers and Pionk won't be out for an overly long period of time, but some interesting injury updates there. Carolina's Jordan Staal, who had been out for 4 games with lower body injury, returned to game action on Tuesday, so it's a big boost there for the Hurricanes. Will Carrier, who has been out for over a month with an injury, could be nearing a return in the very near future. That could be really good stuff there for Carolina. San Jose, Shakir Mukhamadullin is out for the season due to an upper body injury. The Sharks only have like a handful of games left, so not too surprising there. And Tyler Toffoli is dealing with a lower body injury in his day-to-day and missed Monday's game action, so bad blow there for the Sharks to lose a young defender for the rest of the season and one of their star-level goal scorers for the next couple of games. So interesting note there. But those are all the injury updates from the past couple of days. Good to see guys like Staal, Benn, Glass, and Kaprizov all return or be nearing a return. Hopefully they don't look too bad in their returns. Bad news to see guys like Middleton, Frederic, Tkachuk, and Ehlers all out, and hopefully they won't miss too much time due to injuries, but interesting injury updates from the past couple of days. Next, going over to a quick waiver update. We only have one waiver update. Back over on Monday, we saw that Olli Lycksell in Philadelphia has been placed on waivers. Now, I've said this every time since the trade deadline that players have been placed on waivers. If a team were to acquire a player on waivers, they can't use them for the rest of the regular season or in the playoffs. So at this point in the season, it makes no sense for most teams to claim a player off of waivers, especially with Lycksell being mostly an AHL player over the past couple of years. I would think there's a very strong likelihood that Lycksell will clear. So we're going to have to wait and see on if Lycksell does clear. But with where we are in the season right now and the fact that Lycksell is more of an AHL player, I think there's a very likely chance he'll stay in the Philadelphia Flyers organization after his waiver placement. So interesting note there. But Olli Lycksell has been placed on waivers by Philly, and we'll have to wait and see on if he does wind up getting claimed or not. And lastly, going over to a couple of trade rumors. So we do have a couple of trade rumors to talk about here. I'm going to start off by talking about the 2 Pennsylvania teams. That's the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, both of these teams have now had overly great seasons. They're in the bottom half of the Eastern Conference. They've already been eliminated from playoff contention. There are 2 of the first 3 teams to be eliminated from the East, so it has not been overly great stuff there, but it does seem like both these teams in this offseason are going to want to go and try and add some key pieces to try and build these teams back up. Philly just started a rebuild. It seems like they do want to try and start building up and getting some more players who are NHL ready. And for Pittsburgh, they want to go through a quick retool so Crosby doesn't miss the playoffs again next year. So I've seen separate articles talking about both teams trading high-level draft picks this offseason for NHL-level help. Now, for the Flyers, I think it makes less sense, but they do have 3 first-round picks. I can't remember who they were, but I think one was the Avalanche. They have their own, and then there was another first-round pick that they do have. So they have 3 first-round picks. 2 are going to be in the lower half of the draft, so they're going to be like in the 20, 25, 30 range. And of course, they got their own, which is like right now in the top 10. So they're not trading their first-round pick, but one of the 2 extra ones I could see them wind up trading. And they also have 4 second-round picks. So they're not going to pick 7 times in the first 64 picks of this upcoming draft. So I think there's a very likely chance that even though I don't think Philadelphia is ready to start buying with the absolute plethora of draft capital this team does have, I wouldn't be overly surprised to see them try and move off some draft capital to try and improve and get at least some sort of younger player. Like, I'm not sure who they try and target, like a Zegras, a Keandre Miller. There's probably a couple of other guys who I'm forgetting right now who are probably going to be on the block this year who they could try and target via trade. So we're going to have to wait and see on that, but keep your eye on Philadelphia as there's a possibility to go after a younger player player. Same thing with Pittsburgh. We know the Penguins are desperately trying to get younger, to try and build up this core to be a playoff caliber team again. So the Pittsburgh Penguins, we know that they're trying to do a quick retool to try and get Crosby back into the playoffs. And like we said, they have a couple of first round picks too. They have the Rangers, they have their own. Those could easily be both top 16 picks this year. There's a very likely chance they do have a couple of extra seconds as well for this year and for the future. So if it does make sense for the Penguins, I think they'd be more open to doing this. They could definitely try and move some picks to acquire young, established NHL players. We've heard Kyle Dubas say that that's the sort of thing that he's trying to go after. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens there. But keep your eye this offseason on both Pennsylvania teams, as they may try and move some of their draft capital to other teams, try and get some younger NHL talent to try and help round out their team and make them playoff caliber again. Next, going over to the Montreal Canadiens. Now, I've seen a couple of Montreal Canadiens media people talk about this, and that was regarding Habs defenseman Arber Xhekaj. Now, Xhekaj, over the past couple of games, has actually been a healthy scratch, and he's actually been a healthy scratch a couple of times this year, and he sort of seems to be falling out of favor of Montreal, like with the emergence of younger guys, such as caller favorite Hudson, such as Goulet, such as Struble. Xhekaj's fallen out of favor in Montreal. A big body type guy. He's a good guy to have, especially if you're going into like a physical playoff series, but he's not going to put you up a whole bunch of points. He's not the greatest defensively, so he's become a liability. And with the Habs still having a whole bunch of really good young prospects, such as a guy like Logan Mailloux and a couple of other guys, and with this team probably wanting to add a couple more veterans on top of having Matheson and Savard, it seems like Xhekaj has sort of become expendable, and the Canadiens might actually move him this offseason. Now he's making $1.3 million for next season, and then he'll be at RFA. So I think if there was a team out there who could use a 6'7" defenseman, someone with a bigger frame, who could maybe not be the greatest offensively, but could definitely help lay a body and things like that, I think the Canadiens could maybe find a taker. I don't think there'll be an overly great return if they were to trade Xhekaj, as I think the best at this point they can do right now is like a third round pick and maybe a decent prospect or maybe a young NHLer. I think that's probably the best they can get for Xhekaj. So we're gonna have to wait and see on that. It seems like the Habs still really do value Xhekaj, so I wouldn't be surprised if they did wind up keeping him. But it does seem like, according to a couple of Montreal reporters, that Xhekaj's been healthy scratch, and the Canadiens might try and trade him in the offseason, so we'll have to wait and see on that. Next, going over to the New Jersey Devils. Now, according to a couple of recent reports I've seen, the Devils might consider moving Dougie Hamilton. Now, Hamilton has been a really great piece on that blue line there for the Devils, but over the past couple of years, he's had a whole bunch of troubles due to the injuries, and the Devils also have a couple of really good young players like Casey and a couple of other guys at the AHL level who look like they're going to be eventually solid stud NHL defensemen. And if they have a guy like Hamilton, they have Siegenthaler, they have Pesce, Hughes, Nemec. There's really not a whole bunch of spots open for those young players, and there's a couple of guys who look like they're going to be eventually top 4 defensemen. So that's a lot of people to wonder if there is a possibility that Dougie Hamilton could get dealt. Now, Hamilton, I'm not exactly sure how much years he has. I think it's either 2 or 3, might be 4 on his contract. He's making $9 million, so he is making quite a big contract. But I mean, I think a lot of teams would love a top pair defenseman who can put up a lot of points, even though he's at $9 million cap hit. So I think there's a possibility. I don't think the Devils really want to move him, and I think they'd only consider moving him if they really feel that they have a couple of really star-studded defensive prospects in the system, like a Casey or a Silayev, or if they really don't feel like Hamilton can stay healthy long enough to help this team down the playoff push. So we're going to have to wait and see on that. I wouldn't say it's a guarantee by any means that Hamilton gets moved. I mean, he was a top free agent acquisition by the Devils a couple of years back, but given his injury troubles and given the young prospects on that blue line, I could see the Devils maybe entertain it. And if they were to move him, they could get like a solid return of like a first round pick, an NHL player, top end prospect, maybe something else. So we're going to have to wait and see on that, but keep your eye on the Devils, as with a lot of young players in their system, they may consider a defensive move in the offseason, and that might include Dougie Hamilton, so we'll have to wait and see on that. And lastly, going over to a mock trade I saw from the past couple of days. Now, this isn't from a legit insider. I think this was just some people speculating, but I saw a recent article that said that the Seattle Kraken and New York Rangers should hook up on a trade this offseason regarding Jared McCann. Now, McCann has been a really fantastic top 6 forward ever since he was claimed in the expansion draft from Toronto. He's been a very fantastic fit, has a 40-goal season in his first 4 seasons in Seattle. This year, however, has been a little bit down year. I think he's only got like 54 points and 20 goals. hasn't been to the level he has been over the past couple of years. So that has led some people to wonder if McCann could wind up being dealt. Now, McCann is a very, like I said, solid top 6 goal scorer. So I think if the Kraken were to deal McCann, who I think has either 1 or 2 years left after this year at $5 million, they would have to get a really good return. The mock trade that I saw said that the New York Rangers should trade Brennan Othmann, a 2027 first round pick, and defenseman Zach Jones to the Kraken for McCann. Now, that would be an interesting haul. Othmann, I think, eventually is going to be a very fantastic, dynamic, top 9 winger, and I think could step into the NHL lineup as early as next year. That would be a very good level prospect that the Kraken could add. They also get Zach Jones, who at this point in time is a really good 6'7" defenseman, can be a healthy scratch, but can also be a decent third pair defenseman. With the Kraken not being overly great defensively this year, that might be an interesting add. And they get a first round pick a couple of years down the road. So like I said, I'm not exactly sure how this would affect both teams. Like McCann were to go to the Rangers, that would be an instant top 6 upgrade, especially if the Rangers were to move on from a guy like Chris Kreider. I think McCann could be a really solid add on like a second or first line with guys like Panarin, Lafreniere, Zibanejad. So that could be an interesting move when it comes to the Rangers side. Plus, we also know how they develop prospects, so maybe moving off a guy like Brennan Othmann wouldn't be the worst in the world for the Rangers. When it comes to the Kraken, they get a future top 9 forward in Othmann, a decent third pair defenseman Jones, and another first round pick for the future they could use as trade fodder if they wanted to, or maybe keep and draft someone down the future. So I think this will be a deal that I think the Rangers would probably want more than the Kraken, because like I said, McCann's been a very fantastic player since they won for Seattle, so I don't think they want to move him right now, but it would be an interesting trade concept. Like McCann for a first, a top prospect, and a decent defenseman, I think wouldn't be an overly bad haul from Seattle. I just don't know if that would be enough of a trade that they would want, that they would feel like they improve for this upcoming season. So we're going to have to wait and see on that. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that mock trade, plus all the other things that we discussed with Hamilton, with Xhekaj, with the Pennsylvania teams. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on what you thought about all of those deals, and about the signings, the injury updates, and the waiver updates in the past couple days. That's all I'm going to talk for today. Remember to like this video, and if you'd like to subscribe below, really step up the channel, and we're on the road to 500 subscribers. Don't forget to leave a comment down in the comment section below as well. I also do a blog, talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that, so check that out. I'll leave a link to that down in the description below, and I can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.